And we are now live, I think. Yes, we are now live. Hello and welcome to Broadsheet on the Telly. My name is John Preposterous Ryan. You're very welcome, Broadsheet readers, commenters, and some of the trolls. A very big welcome to Kieran Tierney in Galway. Hello, Kieran.
Hi, John. How are you?
Very well. Hello to the evil poet, Kevin Higgins.
Hello.
I don't know why I'm calling you the evil poet, because...
I'm going to use that as the blurb now. That's excellent.
Okay. And Kevin, whereabouts are you? You're also in Galway? No, you're not.
No, I'm in Galway. I'm in Galway City. I'm about 5 minutes from the university.
Wow, okay. And we're also going to be joined by the lawyer, Kevin Higgins, whom Kieran knows, also in Galway. So, Kevin's going to read a poem from us later, aren't you? Or are you going to recite a poem, in fact?
I will. I'll read it. Yeah. Just
okay.
Kind of relating to the Frederick Street thing, in a way.
Okay. So in relation to the eviction, that wasn't an eviction, apparently. Marcel Kruger, hello.
Good evening.
Good evening from Toulouse. Cologne-born Marcel has a book club. Very exciting book club that is a rival to Neil's slot. It's very, very complicated, but we're going to have Marcel's Book's Choice later. Hello, Marcel. And hello to Neil Curran, who's our producer, but not in Ireland at the moment. Where are you, Neil?
I'm in España at the moment.
You're in Spain.
Yeah. I'm about to invade Portugal and to take over Luke's humble abode. That's the plan. Okay,
and also the plan will be that we're going to be joined by Johnny and Luke in Barcelona, who are there to see Stephen Garland's play, the one-man show that he did for Edinburgh. So we're going to be joined. That's on tomorrow night in Barcelona if anybody's there. But Johnny and Luke are hopefully going to join us, and Luke's got his girlfriend with him, I think. So anyway, we're going to be joining them later. And also Andrew from Take Back the City, which was the organization involved in the North Frederick Street occupation. So Andrew's going to join us later with Olga. But Kieran, you were at the protest in Galway, the Take Back the City solidarity protest tonight in Galway, right?
Yeah, I just caught it for a few minutes, John. It was organised kind of at short notice in solidarity with the images that people saw from Dublin the other night, which kind of had an emotional impact on a lot of Irish people. I think this sight of people with face masks on, breaking down doors, landlords. So there was, I'd say, more than 100 people in Eyre Square. I didn't stick around too long, and it was a huge torrential downpour, but they marched down through the city to the Spanish Arch and then ended up at the Garda station. So they wanted to make a point to the Gardaí, because I think a lot of people were upset by the scenes of Gardaí without their badges on, without their identification, and with masks on. It wasn't a very nice image, we'll put it that way. And I think that resonated with people across the country. And it's also, I suppose, important to make the point to people in Dublin that homelessness is a huge issue all over the country. And, I saw there were images on RT News of a tent city in Cork last week, and we're kind of feeling like we're coming into the winter now as well. But there were two things actually in Eyre Square this week, because the students who were finding it really tough to get accommodation had a camp out 2 nights ago. So that was two things about the same issue in the space of 48 hours, basically. Yeah. So there was quite a strong turnout for something that was on a really wet evening this evening, and for something that was only organised, I think, at about 24 hours notice. Obviously, it resonates with a lot of Galway people, what's happening in Dublin.
Yeah, completely. I just wanted to also welcome celebrity accountant Vanessa Foran. Vanessa has been having some microphone troubles. Vanessa, can you hear us? Can you hear us okay now?
Yes, I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
Absolutely. It's completely perfect. In fact, it's the best of all the mics tonight.
It's the celebrity B-list accountant or Z-list accountant, I read. Isn't that right?
No,
that's fine. That's fine, folks. As long as their fees are paid, I don't care.
Well, you're very welcome, Vanessa. Sorry, just get back to Kieran. Kieran, the mood then this evening among the people at the protest in Galway.
Yeah, it's quite angry. I was, from what I gauged of it, and housing is a human right, and there were a few negative comments about Airbnb as well, because I've seen images of Dublin, the amount of properties that are taken off the market. There's becoming a bit of a backlash against B&B or Airbnb, whereas a year ago everybody was going, "Oh, this is a great way to travel" or whatever, but now people are seeing the impact it's having on the rental market, and that's as much true here in Galway as it is in the capital. So the people were quite animated. They had a megaphone, and they just decided on the spot that they'd go down through the city and then head over to the Garda station. But one of those massive legendary Galway downpours came along, and I just bailed out at that stage, so I didn't go down to see them confront the Gardaí. But it was peaceful, but it was, there was still a bit of anger there.
Yeah. And today, I don't know, Kevin or Neil and Marcel or Vanessa, if you're aware that Drew Harris said that it was incorrect or not correct for the Gardaí to warn their, these safety masks, balaclavas, effectively.
Did he now? Oh.
Yeah, he actually went ahead. He seemed to go above what Leo had said, or anybody else had really said that during the day. In fact, he seems to kind of double back or sort of reverse the spin that was in process all day. So it seems a little bit confusing. In fact, he's gone even further than what Leo said earlier. Sorry, Vanessa, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm just thinking that I don't think that Drew Harris, now I'm not comfortable with his appointment anyway, but I don't think he's afraid to speak up and, stand up and be counted. I get that impression. I think that the weakness of the whole scene was that Gardaí were seen to be escorting people that were unidentifiable, and I don't think that struck the right chord. The whole visual of balaclavas back on the streets is one thing. But the idea then, when you look behind that, you think Gardaí are escorting these guys and we don't know who the hell they are.
Yeah.
They were protecting people.
And then, of course, there was the issue as well then of the van that came from Northern Ireland and apparently had not been taxed
I thought
about
that, and I'm thinking, if I drove around Crumlin in a balaclava with no number plates, I don't think I'd get to the end of my driveway.
But as every second post on the official Garda Twitter account is literally them pulling out a bloke who hasn't paid his taxes for 2 months off the road. It's literally every second post.
I think they confirmed today that it was tax compliant, or that the van was tax compliant.
Yes, but the van had now, according to social media, the van had stickers for Manchester Armed Response or something, was it? Or
yeah, it was auctioned in 2014, I think.
Yes, but if it was still presenting as that, well then, that's illegal, actually.
Yeah.
If they were presenting themselves as an armed unit, or I'd put money on it that a condition of acquiring these ex-fleet vehicles is that you decommission the whole logo.
Yeah. Can we just go away from the van for a second? The whole show of force. I don't know if you remember there was a picture on Broadsheet a couple of weeks ago. There was a parade of the armed services, and the armed response, or the riot public control unit, or whatever, the public order unit, were part of the parade, and they were simply just basically in balaclava, or not balaclavas, but helmets and Kevlar. And the purpose didn't seem sort of obvious, but when I saw the removal of the protesters on Tuesday, the photographs, it seemed like another show of that kind of force. And I'm not sure what.
I think that the image of the balaclavad men, particularly with the private security people, also balaclavad, it won't go away. It is one that will stick in people's heads, almost whatever the denials and it was an error and so on. It looked pretty organized. It didn't look like something that was done at it may be cock up rather than conspiracy and so on, but it looked like a return to something from the 1970s. And the fact that they would choose to use that in this particular situation, when there was no need, they were not under threat. It wasn't, they weren't evicting members of the Red Brigades or Bader Meinhof. Like, it was not, we're not there yet. Although it is how you get there.
I'm sure a lot of you have seen the photos, or somebody superimposed a photo of an eviction in 1898 or something,
yes,
from an old cottage, and you know that really tugs at the heartstrings of Irish people, or gets you going. This whole
but I think we need a bit of reality as well. That this was an unoccupied building; it wasn't residential property, you know, and there's very different treatment in this country for properties that are occupied by owners, you know. I support the protest, by the way. I would probably have done it slightly different, but I do support the protest in that I do think idle properties should be utilised. But I think the way to sort that out is to rack up the rates on the properties.
Like a vacant property tax.
No, but rates. If they're for commercial use,
so
rack them up.
Okay, local, like to the local authority.
Yeah, just Dublin City Council could do that overnight.
Yeah, why wouldn't they?
Well, you'd have to ask them that, but yeah, the City Council can do that. And now actually is a great time to consider all these penalties because they're all getting their 2019 budgets tidied up now.
Okay, this company, there was a distinction between that this wasn't a security company, that this was a company that repossessed assets, and that they had some sort of. Are you familiar? I mean, I know you're involved in insolvency.
Yeah, you do get canvassed a lot by firms like this one. I don't know the name of this particular firm. Now it's probably out there. I don't go into rabbit holes or anything. But I
think they're called the Garda Síochána. I saw from their logos.
Well, the private. Not security firm or whatever. This other
cleaners.
Cleaners. Why are they not? Why are they not covered by any law then? I mean, why can they do?
Well, the only cleaners that I know of all tend to be Northern Ireland.
Okay, but
I do get emails quite a lot asking if I need the assistance of or need to, because in my business you're on 90% of the people are on both sides. But I only stick to one side. You know, there's asset protection and there's all sorts.
Okay.
But like receivers and liquidators, I don't do that. So they tend to need these people's help a lot. It's quite a lucrative business, actually.
Okay, but we don't know what this company's. They specialize in possession of assets, but they're not bound by the same rules as security companies. Is that?
I know during the poll tax in Britain that sometimes the police would accompany bailiffs when they were sent round to possess assets to pay off bills and so on.
Sure.
And there are laws covering bailiffs. They did break them on various occasions, but also the technical role of the police there was to ensure that there wasn't a breach of the peace, the Queen's peace, as it was called.
Right.
So there would be regulations covering them, but not the same as the guards, obviously. Now, they were never allowed to turn up wearing masks, and they were certainly, in instances, in a lot more danger than the guys turning up at Frederick Street would have been.
Yes, even I must say, Marcel, and Neil, even for Germany, Marcel, that would be a very, very unusual image, wouldn't it? An eviction involving Gardaí wearing masks and private company wearing masks.
Well, it's definitely is nothing that I've seen in Ireland in the last 10 years. So let's put it this way. In Germany, if it would be an occupied house that is occupied by self-identifying leftists, kind of radicals, they would bring in the heavy guns. We had this in Hamburg, which has a long history of occupied housing, and then over proportionate response of the police there. But I mean, as Kieran said, I think it's the image that will stay, definitely, because it's so harsh. And we had such a positive response to the whole Occupy movement in this country. So I think this was just too heavy-handed.
Yeah, I don't think the people who were involved in the protests were that threatening. I don't know.
No,
I mean, I wasn't there.
But you see, you think the guards would have checked that first before they went to escort.
Yeah, did Jenny, have you seen the
team
images?
in.
They went down
That's
to
where
the
the guards
Garda station to ask for them to be released, or were chanting, but it seemed to be quite good-natured. I'd never seen that before, kind of people power inside a Garda station where people were just chanting for them to be let out, but they didn't seem like a menacing, threatening kind of crowd.
Well, what I'm talking about is beforehand.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm just judging by what I saw afterwards, you know, Vanessa, that the people didn't seem like...
Yeah, but that's when they had been arrested.
Yeah.
I'm talking about beforehand. The guards escorted these guys. They provided backup for them. And nobody knows who they are, because they're like, we don't know if the guards checked their IDs. Don't even know if they were allowed to be here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Neil.
We don't know who they are. But the point is that they escorted these guys and provided security for them. But what the guards did not do is go in and ask the lads, do they want to leave peacefully? That's what would happen in any other society, regardless of whether it's a democracy or, you know, a monarchy or whatever. That's what would happen.
Well, Drew Harris
naturally, it's called, they're Northern Ireland or the Scottish or the English, because bailiffs is a private industry in the UK.
Okay, well, let's just stick to what we know. Drew Harris today said that firstly he said that it wasn't correct that his officers were wearing masks, but that wasn't correct. And then, just going back to what Kevin said, Vanessa and Neil and the whole panel, in fact, Drew Harris seems to have been so wrong-footed. Do you think this was a sort of deliberate attempt to make him look bad? I mean,
by who? By ordinary Gardaí or by?
Well, you know, there's a huge resistance to Drew Harris's appointment. I mean, even Vanessa's, you would be reluctant to about.
I'm uncomfortable with it.
Reasons. I know, Vanessa, but many people have various reasons for disliking this man. This looks so bad, as everybody. Vanessa, just this looks so bad that one would think, you know, is it more than a cock-up? You know?
Well, it's very unfortunate, the Northern Ireland connection or the origin of the van, given that he's only a week in the job, you know, but and the concerns that were raised all along by victims of various attacks and all, you know, the whole RUC history, you know, it doesn't help, but, you know, that's a bit of a you know, conspiracy theory there, John, to say that this was planned to make it
all I would say is that it looks so disproportionate. The timing seemed very poor because Drew Harris's speech, I think, to recruits at Templemore was very impressed a lot of people, and there was a certain dignity about that ceremony that was lacking in previous ones over the last few years. And certainly,
I think it's impossible to know with something like that. What you can guarantee, though, is that the decision to do this wasn't made by ordinary Gardaí, but higher up. And also, I think that it's inconceivable that they wouldn't have had a report from Special Branch as to who was inside the building.
Yes.
I mean, if they don't give them that sort of information, what is the point of them? So I would guess they would have an idea as to the political leanings generally of those inside and what the reaction was likely to be as well. So, you know, however...
I'm suggesting perhaps generously that Drew Harris was as shocked maybe as we were when he saw the images. Perhaps he wasn't aware of the nature of this kind of, the nature of the raid or the support given perhaps Vanessa to that company. I mean, they would do, security companies are these bailiff repossession companies. They would normally ask for police support, would they?
Only if they needed support to remove somebody, or if the law has been broken in the UK. Like, the bailiffs have a certain amount of authority, but if they need to, they can call in the police then to physically remove somebody.
Okay.
If they've got a writ, if they've got a court order.
And is it just that there may be a threat of possible violence, or is it, what's it based on? I mean, the police surely can't go to everything
to protect the bailiffs.
But based on what? I mean, is it just,
you see,
based on people are violent?
The bailiffs are acting. If the bailiff in the UK anyway, the bailiffs are acting on behalf of the courts, so their job is to facilitate the removal of an illegal occupier, and if there's a danger or a threat to their lives, obviously they can call the police. But if things aren't moving, they can also call the police to act more forcibly, because they have to enforce the court order. And now this, Vanessa, this seems to have been the first approach. Like, you know, I mean, I know that they were asked to leave. They got the High Court order. They defied that. They passed the deadline. But in terms of sort of physical approaches to the property, discussions like that, it seems like this was the first approach with the company, with these heavies from the company and the guards.
That's what we're told. That's the image we're presented with. We don't know if they kind of were approached quietly, but the situation here. Let me just describe how this works here in Ireland. The court order is the job of the court service to execute. So they gave it obviously to this firm of bailiffs.
Yes.
Okay, the sheriff, and so he recruited this firm to do this job. So this firm obviously asked the Gardaí to attend. So the gap in information is between I'm going to call them the cleaners, and from getting the job to move it on to who contacted the Gardaí. Did anyone liaise in the meantime? Say, we're coming in. It's not going to be pretty, lads. Do you want to move on? And what worries me the most is I don't know. Maybe the information is out there, but I don't know if the guards actually went in ahead and asked, was everyone okay? Do you want to walk out with us now?
Okay. Because well, from reports...
that would have been a civilized thing to do.
Sure. And as you say, we don't have a full picture, but from reports from Take Back the City, you know, in fact, according to Drew Harris, the people in the house left peacefully tonight. He said that. You know, he stated that. So whatever happened then happened outside on the street.
With the bailiffs.
Well, yeah.
Because if they're not identified and they're, you know, if they can't be identified, then there's obviously, you know, a bit of misbehavior going on if they're not allowed to be identified.
Of course.
I have a big problem with that. That's my big issue, is that they can't be identified.
Okay. Vanessa, can I just cut in there for a second? Because I want to say hello to Kevin Higgins, the lawyer. Can you hear us, Kevin? Not Kevin Higgins, the poet.
Yeah, John.
And they're next to each other.
Hello,
Are we going old Kevin or young Kevin?
Kevin, I'm
careful.
I'm wondering if you had those. Kevin, I'm wondering if you had those pink earphones, because your sound is a little bit off.
How's that now?
Much better, actually.
Good.
Great. Good evening, Kevin. We've been talking about the North Frederick Street occupation and the removal by heavies and the police and the photographs and the images and whatnot.
Yeah.
Your quick thoughts on that?
Well, there are a couple of things that I'd very much like to know, as I think everybody would. Vanessa's been giving, I've been listening very carefully to what she's been saying. The bailiffs or the agents of the landlord or the property owner in this case are not officers of the court, and they do not have powers of officers of the court. That is a distinguishable position from what actually pertains in the UK, where bailiffs are acting as officers of the court. In this jurisdiction, they are not. They're simply private individuals doing a job of work. Now, I don't know if any of the occupants of that premises have been charged. But if they have been charged, I would very much like to see what is on the charge sheets, or if a summons follows. Because there were two ways in which this could have been dealt with legally. Those people were trespassing.
Yeah.
Trespass, as you know, in this jurisdiction, is a civil offence. It is not a criminal offence. However, in the last great campaign on housing in this country, we have to go back some 46, 47 years to the days of the Dublin Housing Action Committee, which was an extremely energetic campaign. And that led to a piece of legislation known as the Forcible Occupation and Entry Act 1972 to crush the Dublin Housing Action Committee. And in fact, in those days, this was in the dying days of the Lynch government post-arms trial. And there were what would have then been described as a lot of liberal people on the opposition benches. So much so that a guillotine did not work in those days. So Conor Cruise O'Brien took to trying reading the Act down by actually opening the Oxford English Dictionary and tried to filibuster the Act down. Now, you can go to the Dáil record and you will find that that's the case. Now, I happen to have a particularly personal acquaintance with this Act. And the pertinent section is section 2, subsection 2. And it is a criminal offence. And Garda can enter and arrest somebody under section 2, subsection 2, on the basis that they have illegally entered premises which they do not own. Now, if any of those young people have been charged, I would be very interested to see what is on their charge sheets. Because whereas they were in contempt of a High Court order, the process when you're in contempt of a High Court order is you're sent to the cells until you purge your contempt. There could be no charge as such leveled against them. They were simply in breach of a High Court order. Now, they were not taken down and brought before the judge and asked to purge their contempt. They were taken into, I think, Store Street, and then later released.
Yeah, three separate stations. Yeah.
3 separate stations. Yeah. Now, the other question is, I mean, those are, I suppose, technical questions, which I would love to see answered. The other question is, was it intended to embarrass Mr. Harris? I don't know. Or was Mr. Harris, who comes from a totally different policing culture, actually testing the waters in his first week? I don't know. I don't know what's going to emerge from this. It was extremely unpleasant. And just to add something, John.
Yes.
As you know, the Offences Against the State Act is one of the most infamous pieces of legislation which we have still on the statute books. And it has been amended a number of times. Now, to the best of my knowledge, one of the later amendments makes the wearing of anything that could be construed as paramilitary paraphernalia, including balaclavas, an actual criminal offence.
Yes.
Under section, whatever section it is of the Offences Against the State Act.
Yeah.
And there was indeed complicity with the Garda in doing this.
Yes, yeah. I'm actually familiar with that. I think we did a story maybe 5 years ago on that. As regards those, the Republican Sinn Féin demonstrations on O'Connell Street at Easter time,
and at funerals, for instance.
Yes. Yeah, of course. So Drew, Vanessa, I'll just come to you in a second. Just on my conspiratorial point of possibility. Now, it either came down from the top, as you say, and this is a new direction, and we're testing the waters, and a bit like the parade, the show of force, like look at us, and are a case of to encourage the others, in effect, to say, look, these evictions got to stop. Or thirdly, he was undermined by his own underlings.
Possibly. I think ultimately we could revert to good old Clint Eastwood in one of his awful films where he described something as a clusterfuck.
Yeah. Well, sorry, Vanessa, over to you.
Sorry, was that what it occurred to me earlier on in the segment, John, was about Drew coming out and saying we got it wrong, and that, you know, I mentioned that I think he's going to be a lot more vocal, and he's going to be putting his stamp on very quickly and very loudly. You know, you have to remember he's come in obviously against resistance within the top tier in on Garda Síochána, and he may not be a popular choice amongst them either. So they're going to sort of hive away and doing their own thing because that's been their job for so long. Do you know what I mean? He may not be party to the decisions the assistant commissioners and the superintendents are making, and they're just saying, "Oh, you know, he's a blow into them." He's never gone through Templemore. And that's the mentality of these big, huge organizations.
Well,
he's a complete implant into them.
Yeah, I felt
Is this the first time, actually, John, someone from outside has come in?
It is, yeah.
Yes,
to Garda Síochána at this level. So as far as they're very suspicious, so they're not going to be sharing their day-to-day with this man.
Neil has some good Garda connections. Neil, what are your feelings on this?
Well, I don't think it really matters where he comes from. He's got a policing background. Did he mess up here? Yes, he did. But it's a great distraction from the real issue at hand, which is the housing crisis once again.
Yeah, well, it's the state's response to
accommodation crisis.
I mean, it was a desperate. I mean, the Take Back the City movement is a desperate movement. But it was a desperate response to that movement.
I saw somebody, guys, on social media today saying as soon as they sat down and blocked the traffic in O'Connell Street and people were inconvenienced on their way home from work, that was a brilliant way of making headlines, whereas occupying a building wasn't making the headlines in the same way. So yeah, in terms of getting publicity, it's been, well, very, very negative publicity for the Gardaí as well, you know, but it has got people talking about the homelessness issue, which I think people were talking about anyway, but it's really focused people on it.
Yeah, Kevin, not the poet, but the lawyer, Kevin, and Vanessa perhaps as well. Kevin, you mentioned that the act that you were involved in and the forceful removal act. The act has
been there for 46 years. It's the Forcible Occupation and Entry Act.
Yeah, the Forcible Occupation.
It was its full title is the Prohibition of Forcible Entry and Occupation Act, 1972. Right. And it was designed specifically to deal with the occupation of Georgian dwellings all over Dublin. There were a number of people who cut their
Marion.
Sorry?
Marion Finucane.
Yeah, there's a clip of Marion Finucane.
Marion's involvement predates that. Marion had nothing whatever to do with the Dublin Housing Action Committee.
No, she was to do with Hume House, isn't it?
Hume Street.
Hume Street, yeah.
Hume Street. Marion was an architectural student in Bolton Street, and she and a number of other students occupied some buildings in Hume Street, which a developer wished to demolish.
Yeah.
An infamous company called K, in much the same ways as these boys the other day, broke in and quite frankly beat the shit out of the people in there.
Right, yeah, including Marion's friends.
Yeah. But that's nearly half a century ago, John. As you pointed out, I'm somewhat older than you.
Well, yeah, but things change. And
John's older than us, don't worry.
Oh yeah, I am actually. That's a very interesting clip for a variety of reasons with the Marion Finucane one, because Everyone sounds like they're from an alien comedy or something. The received pronunciation, I've never seen anything like it from students. But there were different times. So K Security, these guys seem to be of a pretty heavy, anonymous sort of, like as Vanessa said, these guys could be ex-criminal or, violent.
Or currently criminal.
Huh?
Or currently criminal.
Well, you see, the thing is, my difficulty is that the sheriff, obviously, he subcontracted the order out to these people. Do you know what I mean? He didn't go along himself with the guards. He's entitled to ask for assistance.
Why didn't he go along with the guards?
I'll go along with the guards. So instead, he subbed it out to this crew. Let's just call it a crew, okay? And then they then asked the guards for a bit of a dig out. See, the whole optic is actually they were literally like, it was the whole bank of balaclavas. If it was scattered out, it mightn't have been such a wallop.
Yeah.
And so like everything about it was wrong. Everything about the whole thing was wrong.
Sure, but Vanessa and Kevin,
not so much. Sorry,
the sheriff.
Not so much getting the lads to leave.
I don't think the sheriff had anything to do with it.
Well, but sure, he has to execute the order.
No, he doesn't.
Of course he does. Of course he does.
Why?
The High Court. Hang on. Who signed the order originally? Kevin.
The judge.
The High Court.
The judge.
Yeah.
And what happens to it then?
Well, look, as far as I understand, right? Now, you have a great deal of specialist knowledge with respect to people's liabilities. A sheriff goes out to execute an order to recover a debt, does he not? This was
but the principle is the same.
No, but I mean, where is the role of the sheriff? Did you see an agent of anybody acting on behalf of the sheriff?
Well, that's the thing. He's obviously after subbing it out. I mean, I don't see why the sheriff wouldn't be involved if the High Court signed the execution order. The judge doesn't just give it to you, the owner of the building. Here, off you go. It goes to the court service.
I think those people were agents of the owner acting directly on foot of the High Court order. I don't believe the sheriff had any role whatsoever in this.
Okay. Can I just say also a correction on something that two have been charged with public order offences. Not really sure what they are, the nature of those are, Kevin, but just wanted to put that in.
Thank you. If there's a trial on those charges, that's a big mistake.
Well,
because it will become a rallying point. I mean, Jobstown 2, and we saw how that ended. I would guess.
Absolutely. Kevin, you've got a poem for us, but before I say that, I'd ask you to read that out. It has a relevance to the North Frederick Street. There's news this evening from Dublin City Council. The last Magdalen laundry site on Sean McDermott Street is now going to be protected. Is a now protected site. It was going to be sold to a hotel chain, but a motion by Social Democrat councillor Gary Gannon and occasional columnist on the journal on the sheet.
I'm going to tell you something, John.
Oh, I don't know. Jesus, head girls of the journal. My God. No, Gary's motion was passed, so they're going to protect this the last Magdalen laundry site. What for, I don't know, but some sort of memorial, some sort of place we can.
I think it would have made great sustained living apartments, actually.
Well, maybe for survivors of abuse and whatnot.
That also, John, follows a big long campaign, and or not long campaign, but a real vocal public campaign. I saw so many people signing signatures about that. It really. Tugged at the heartstrings of people as well. I mean, it's still an emotive issue. And, Gary kind of tapped into that and really understood that people did not want to see this happen,
No,
so it's great to hear that the rest of the council agreed with them.
I know, because in the comments, because we've been covering it for the last few weeks, and in the comments section, it seemed that there was like, what are you going to do? why do we want to be reminded that, you know, and I found it quite vocal in the sense that, oh, maybe this vote isn't really, you know, is not going to be carried. But as you say, Gary did incredible work getting.
Yeah, well, I saw an awful lot of people signing it and sharing it and getting quite, you know, animated about it. Felt it was an important issue.
So there's that, and that ties in with the tune Mother and Baby Home, I think. Kevin Higgins, the lawyer. But first we'll go, Kevin, you have a poem that has some resonance this week.
It's I wrote it. It's actually 17 years old, but it's a poem in defense of civil disobedience, and it was written at the time of the anti-globalization protests in Seattle, where someone said to me, "What seems to happen at these things is a branch of McDonald's or a bank needs to get smashed up, and then everyone can go home feeling they've made their point." Someone said to me, "Well, that never really changed anything," which of course on its own is true, but very little was ever changed by those who made their point politely and then went home. So this is a brief history of those who made their point politely and then went home. On this day of tear gas in Seoul and windows broken at Dickens and Jones, I can't help wondering why a history of those who made their point politely and then went home has never been written. Those who in the heat of the moment never dislodged a policeman's helmet, never blocked the traffic or held the country to ransom. Someone should ask them, was it all worth it? All those proud men and women who never had the National Guard sent in against them, who left everything exactly as they found it, without adding as much as a scratch to the paintwork, who no one bothered asking, are you or have you ever been? Because we all knew damn well they never ever were.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you very much, Kevin. Thank you. A wonderful poem. And 14 years old, you say, but still...
17 years old.
17 years old. So...
2001, yeah.
2001. Presumably you're about Iraq, was it then?
It was it was actually before even 9/11. It was the anti-globalization protests. There was the Seattle one, and then one somewhere else.
Yeah,
so it's almost from, you know, history had still ended at that point.
They were cracking skulls and stuff. Hello, and we're joined by, hello.
Andrew.
Is it Andrew?
It is, yeah.
Hello, Andrew. How are you? I'm John, by the way. You're very welcome.
Sorry I'm so late now. I'm just after making it home from the occupation tonight.
Okay, Andrew. Olga arranged this interview, so I'm sorry. I was expecting Olga to come on with you, but
no problem.
Andrew, you injured your hand, isn't that right? From
this is it here. Yeah. Well, I didn't injure it now, but it was injured for me. So
yes. Okay. Yeah, like the guy with the head injury who he headbutted the Garda's knee. He said.
Yeah.
Can you? You're with the Take Back the City organization.
Take Back the City. Yeah.
And you were part of the occupation at 34 North Frederick Street.
I was, yeah.
And can you take us back to, say, Tuesday before the guards and this security company or this company arrived at North Frederick Street?
So I arrived in there at about 10 to 7 in the evening, and was due in to do a shift until midnight. Now, obviously, North Frederick Street, so I was well aware that we'd broken the injunction. So that's the nature of that occupation, whereas Belvedere would be different now. Belvedere, the injunction hasn't yet passed, you know. So was in there with 3 other activists, sitting down, having a bite to eat, drinking a cup of tea, when unannounced, an angle grinder came through the front door, 2 sledgehammers as well. And so this immediately sort of sent us into shock and panic, you know. Now we were prepared in terms of what to do for anti-eviction. So the call went out to Belvedere, to the other occupation. But they made short work of the front door now. They were in there fairly sharpish in about 6 minutes.
Right. And you in terms of the actual? Were you on the same floor that they came in, or were you guys up the window up the top floor?
The safe room was upstairs. We were up on the first floor, and yeah, the men came in with balaclavas. Then this was the private security, or so we assume. You know, we're not entirely sure, but we're not going to speculate on this. There's been a lot of stuff thrown around in the media, but there's no certain comments made on this. It's being investigated at the minute.
Sure. But you were upstairs, Andrew, when they came in. Had you barracked yourself in the safe room?
No. What had happened was, due to a lack of organisation, we weren't prepared. We had assumed that there would be there'd be more time, but they made short work at the door, as I said, and
okay. And
so as a result of this,
what had been the plan?
I decided that so the plan would be to go into the safe room, barricade ourselves in, and hands above the head, and let them escort us out. But we didn't have enough time for this, so I decided to walk down with my hands in the air. I met a man on the stairs with a balaclava and a sledgehammer, and he asked me if I was coming down. I told him, yes, I'm coming down. Just tell your friends in the hallway that I'm coming down as well, you know, just to kind of relay the message.
Yes.
He said that now, although I'm not sure they heard me or whether they heard me or not. They let me know that they were there on the way out anyway, and they roughed me up a wee bit, throwing me down the hallway between one another, and I was thrown into a guy. People had like sledgehammers and crowbars and power tools. I was thrown into various different people, received a blow to my left knee, and then a cut to my right hand. Now the adrenaline was going so much that I didn't actually feel this until I was actually out going down the stairs.
Yeah.
So I got outside then, and I was approached by a Garda, and he asked me what my name and my number was, where I live, and that was it. He turned away from me then, and was focused again on the private security. Didn't ask me if I wanted to go to the hospital. I was bleeding out all over the ground now at this point.
Okay.
No compassion, really.
Yeah, I saw some photographs of your injury. Very nasty, like big deep cut on your hand, isn't it? I mean,
yeah, 4 stitches. I went to the Mater Hospital that night along with 2 other activists who'd received concussions. They were there. One of them stayed until 4 a.m. They were all just waiting on chairs. You know, it's funny how the housing crisis sort of ran headfirst into the healthcare crisis last time.
And one of those was, I hope I'm getting the pronunciation right, Concuro Radic.
Conor Reddy, yeah.
And I gather he's a Trinity student who he might have a possible small bleed on his brain.
It was a concussion. Yeah, he's an activist with Take Back Trinity. I'm not sure now. I heard there was soft tissue damage to his neck, and bad bruises as well. But I didn't hear anything about soft bleed to the brain though.
Okay, and Andrew, so prior to the firm arriving and the guards in support, what had been the plan? It was when they came up, you would come out with your hands up, and to make it sort of as public as possible, to make as much fuss as possible about the removal. But there was no intention to resist the removal.
No.
I mean, you weren't tooled up, or you didn't have balaclavas yourself, or apart from the Leo masks.
No, that's just to remain hidden. And so to keep our identities hidden when we're inside, you know. There's a lot of attention on the occupations when there takes, you know, it would be under heavy surveillance.
Yes, yeah. So they would know who's in the house effectively, and the amount of people.
Well, you can only speculate on that, but I mean, the Garda are well equipped.
Okay.
We've seen in previous cases. When it comes to the Jobestown trials and what unfolded there when it came to the tapping of Paul Murphy's phone, etc., etc. You know, there's no flies on the Garda Síochána, and if there were flies on them, they'd be paying rent. You know.
Well, it seems to be a serious own goal today. Andrew, I'm surprised there was no footage. It was so quick that could you not guys get any footage from the actual removal itself?
From ourselves? No. It was a bit chaotic inside the occupation, right? But that was the nature of how violent and how brutal the eviction was. We were just completely caught unawares by what took place, you know.
Okay, and Andrew, what's your experience of this kind of activism? Is this the first that's got violent?
In my own experience, I've been involved in a student movement in the Netherlands against the budget cuts, and that was my first run-in with state violence. I received a blow to the arm, and Amsterdam police broke my glasses when we were doing a peaceful sit-in protest on the University of Amsterdam campus. But in general, my experience with this is that it's actually very, very enriching. Like, it's a very heartening movement to be a part of, and the atmosphere has been electric in Take Back the City since we started the occupations at the beginning of August. This is, in my opinion, it's a conscious attempt by the Garda Síochána and by the state to sort of deter people from taking part in civil disobedience, you know. And we've seen it time and time again with the water charges movement and now with this. But I think you're right. I think it has backfired to a certain extent, because he's probably seen us shutting down O'Connell Street last night for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
To sit in protest.
It's the only way you guys can get on RTE News as Kieran Tierney was in Galway this evening. He said that the atmosphere was angry, but I suppose...
Well, it's solidarity anyway. I mean, it's good for you guys to know that people around the country are watching what you're doing, and they're very much kind of supportive of you. I mean, it was only organised at 24 hours. I'm a bit shocked, Andrew, from what you're saying. You told them you were leaving. Your body language was you were cooperating, and then it sounds like you were assaulted. I mean, but there were no Gardaí saw this because it happened inside the house.
Yeah, see, this is the problem, is that we're taking this up now as we speak, so I can't really make any further comments on this. But
did they have body cam? Did they have body cams, Andrew?
The Garda Síochána from outside, not that I could tell, but definitely not the private security. No. Okay. You know, you've probably read the news articles like unmarked van, men in balaclavas. Like, it did seem the fact that they weren't really wearing any identification as well was that was the most important thing out of it. They were actually in breach of private security laws there.
Like,
and they didn't try to show you any ID or say who they were?
None whatsoever, no.
Andrew, did you assume they were the guards at first?
No.
No.
When I met them on the stairs, there is an awareness that landlords and bailiffs will bring in the heavies, as you would say, you know, hired security. It's happened time and time again. Grange Gorman, places like that, different squats and occupations that have happened in Dublin over the years. But it's a lesson to be learned from housing occupations that have taken place since the 1980s. It's not very often that the guards or the police will want to go in and sort of engage in that level of eviction, which seems to be the reason as to why one might speculate that the Gardaí were wearing their fire retardant headdresses when there was no threat of a fire. You know, they didn't want to be identified for this.
No,
but again,
Andrew, the guard who came up to you, was he also in one of those masks?
No, see, outside there were between 3 and 5 guards who were they were just plain, you know, wearing the regular uniform. And there's a video now when they started going at the door with the power tools. Just as soon as they went up to the house, you can see a guard right across the road, sort of watching on as the private security are breaking into the house. So on looking and sort of making sure that no one's going to intervene.
Yeah, I saw a guard went down the street as well to check the back, presumably, if you were coming out the back.
Yeah, they had the place. They had the place well checked out before that took place.
Andrew, how many people were in the house when they came?
Just 4 of us.
And Drew Harris, said today in his statement that you left peacefully.
Yeah. I had a read of Drew Harris's statement, and I had a bit of a comment myself. In general, like I've been discussing with a couple of people as to what the nature of that was, and that sort of the general claim that the Gardaí were preserving peace and public order, like that came as a bit of a shock to me when I found myself sitting in the hospital 2 hours later beside 2 activists that were concussed, and I was waiting to receive stitches in my hand. They were taken to A&E. One activist was thrown down the steps, and another one received a boot in the back of the head.
Jesus.
If anything, it was if anything, I think it was the peaceful protesters that showed restraint in the face of such unnecessary violence, as Drew Harris said. And the whole idea that there was this twist that was put on it, trying to. I think Harris was really clutching at straws today, that it was a racist attack on one Garda. This was a very minor incident, according to the other activists who were there. I'm not diminishing the comments that were made, but to sort of spin it in such a way as to twist it back and do the poor me's on the Gardaí who were beating up peaceful protesters, I think is it's telling of Harris's position on this. Yeah.
Well, just on that, is the allegation that most of the violence was done by the security firm in terms of the removal, and then the guards were just physically there in support? I mean, did they take part in? Is that alleged that they were involved in the? Well,
essentially, now I was removed, so I'm only speaking for myself here. Myself and the 4 activists were removed from the house. We left with our hands in the air, proceeded to walk on and leave the scene, and then protesters arrived to protest the eviction. People like Conor Reddy and others, and they were blocked by the public order unit from approaching the property. Also, there were journalists who couldn't really properly take pictures of the private security because the public order unit, the van was in the way. Gardaí were taking phones off protesters who were trying to film it as well. And there is apparently some sort of a loophole that allows guards to do that. Now, I'm not acutely aware of that myself. But the guards, they were the ones who concussed the 2 activists. It wasn't the private security in that case. Conor Reddy and the other activists received concussions as a result of the arrest by the Gardaí Síochána.
Okay. Just on a legal point, Kevin, I think you just wanted to come in on the sheriff bailiff order thing.
No, I was just exchanging just some of the technicalities with Vanessa there. The sheriff really has no role in this, apart from which I can absolutely assure you, in general, the city sheriff is appointed actually by the Minister for Justice. And not only is he the Dublin County Sheriff, he's also the returning officer. And he is by tradition and by the requirements of office usually a lawyer. I think Fergus Gallagher is the current incumbent, and I can assure you there are no circumstances in which he would have retained people to act in that fashion, masked, and to behave in that way. It simply wouldn't have happened. These were agents of the owner or the person entitled to possession of the building. The role of the Gardaí there was to ensure that their attempts to enter the building were not interfered with. In a sense, the guards were between a rock and a hard place. But as everybody knows, the optics were bloody awful.
Like, just talking to Andrew there, how can the firm say that they felt under threat from the occupants?
Well, how many? I think I'm not absolutely sure. That there were probably 4 or 5 of these guys.
There's 4, apparently. 4, Andrew. Yeah.
Yeah, 4 inside the building.
Right. Well, I mean, I don't know how many people were inside the building, but I mean, they're entitled to infer that if people are, and believe me, I'm not defending the manner in which this was done. That's the last thing.
Of course.
I would do. They would be entitled to infer that there may have been a large number of people in there, and since these people had defied a court order, they might attempt to physically resist, and therefore the guards, having been requested to go there, as they undoubtedly were, had to actually provide backup. The behaviour, of course, the behaviour of the guards appeared to be particularly stupid. In some of them wearing masks, but even though it was a very unpleasant experience, and the manner in which it was done, and I've no doubt that there were some blood struck, by and large, this retrieval of the property did, whether you like it or not, happen in accordance with law.
Okay. Well, with some caveats there. Andrew, did you want to come in there?
Yeah, I mean, it might have happened in accordance with the law, but in accordance with the law, 100,000 houses are lying empty, and there's 10,000 homeless on the streets. You know, so I know this is like the legality of the situation, but there is a very strong case to be made for political activism to try and change the contemporary housing crisis.
Yep. Because, like, I mean, if you were to think about it, I mean, segregation was legal at one point, you know? Apartheid was legal at one point.
Well,
this is activism has a role. So at some point, Gandhi broke the law. At some point, Mandela broke the law.
Of course. Actually, John.
Yeah, Kevin.
Going back to your observations, which I never tire of, that I am somewhat older than you. If you go back to the Irish Times for, I think, probably June 1978, you will find reports of the demolition of the and Dean buildings on Dawson Street, on Molesworth Street, the site of which is now occupied by a hideous building occupied by the EU Commission in Dublin.
Oh, yeah.
And if you troll through the June letters column of the Irish Times, you'll find a letter from me, because I was subject to a court order which I wasn't even aware had been granted. But I can tell you that at 3 or 4 in the morning, I was between 80 and 100 feet in the air at the top of that building, which was then a shell, when the bastard started to demolish it from the bottom.
Jeez, good Lord.
Yeah.
Good grief, what happened?
Well, we went down through a series of ladders. Hegarty earthworks or groundworks, which I think are still going with guys on site. And the building, the enterprise was undertaken by a man whose name, he's now deceased, which was the late Patrick Gallagher.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
He came and chatted to us, actually, in the course of the afternoon.
And he would come a cropper a couple of years later then, wouldn't he, himself?
He got fed and breakfast over an extended period from HMG in Northern Ireland, I think.
A bit of porridge at Her Majesty's pleasure.
Yes,
Kevin, can I just say hello to Olga, and Johnny is live in Barcelona. Johnny Keenan, Kevin, you know Johnny very well. Hello, Johnny. Hello, Johnny, live in Barcelona.
Well, how are you keeping, John? You well? Can you hear me?
Not too bad. Not too bad.
How are you, lads? Jesus Christ, we got double figures tonight.
I know, it's incredible. Neil is also in Spain.
Hey, Neil, I thought you looked a bit al fresco there, yeah. Do you like my white picket fence there?
We love it.
I think you're in Barcelona, Johnny. I'm in a different country. I'm in Spain.
We love it, Johnny. I'm going to come to you in a second. Johnny's in Barcelona
Yeah,
for Stephen Garland's show tomorrow night, and Luke is there in Barcelona as well. I'm not sure whether you guys have booked up yet. Have you, Johnny?
It's a big country. As Neil says, he's in Spain. I'm in another country.
No, I meant Luke. You guys were going to look up today, Luke.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. Luke is. You know, there's always drama with me, John.
Did you?
I lost my phone. A taxi, so.
Oh no!
Sucks, you know. I'm here for the weekend just to chill out. My birthday, to meet Steve and all that. Fair play to you. Respect.
Johnny,
no.
Okay, Johnny. Just yeah. You broke up there in a second. I'm going to come back to you, Johnny, in a minute. Okay. I just wanted to go and just say hello to Olga briefly. Olga?
Hi guys, how's everyone? Hi Andrew, good to see you.
Hello.
Hello everyone.
Olga arranged Andrew's interview this evening. They're both wearing the same colours.
Yeah, sorry Andrew, I work, sorry.
It's obviously mustard is in the season.
It's solidarity.
Well, we've had a very interesting discussion, Olga, while you were.
Yeah, sorry, I probably missed most of it. You've probably gone over most of it. I was just wondering because of you.
Are there any developments tonight that we haven't heard? We had the Drew Harris statement. We've had Leo's comment this afternoon. Is there any update on anything from, like, who this firm were? You know, the security firm were, what the name of them, where they were from. Vanessa, have you heard anything yourself?
No, not a word. But then I haven't been fishing or anything, so. Okay,
Andrew, you guys don't know who this company is, do you?
No, my phone hasn't stopped all day.
What were their accents?
I haven't, no Twitter, no Facebook for me now. I'm going off the grid for a couple of hours.
What were their accents?
I'm not gonna have a guess. Yeah, I've heard so many conflicting things over the last 10 hours as to what they might have been. So
you're still in.
Can I ask, Andrew? Sorry, and perhaps someone's already asked this, or you've probably said it yourself already. But when they came into the house, did they explain to you who they were?
No,
nothing
there
at
all. No attempt at any kind of a dialogue or communication. They just, upon seeing me, asked me if I was leaving the building, and I said yes, I was, as if to almost say, you know, try not to break my legs on the way out, kind of a.
And when you went to the hospital, you weren't taken there. You had to go. All of you guys had to go on your own volition. Is that right?
No, right. So once the protesters were arrested, I've just been told I have dinner available to me here. That's fantastic. So once I made my way down O'Connell Street and I received medical attention, and then I heard from the location where I was, protesters marching down O'Connell Street, chanting and cheering, demanding the release of the prisoners. We marched to Store Street Garda station then, and 120 people mobilised in a matter of 20 minutes.
Wow.
And then demanded the release of the prisoners outside Store Street Garda station. So I left my statement in with the police then as well.
Okay. And you'd been to the hospital then by then, had you? That's right.
Yeah. So after the statement had been left, and that was the first thing I wanted to get out of the way. And then once everyone had been released, we received word that the other prisoners there was one that was taken to Mountjoy, and the others were in Store Street. Everyone had come out. Connor went off in a car then, and he went to the Mater, and some of my friends and comrades from Maynooth then took me in the car and drove me there to the hospital as well. So that was shortly after 11:30 in the evening then.
Okay. Is Andrew, because I know you want to get your dinner. Did that guy behind you cook that meal for you? It's very decent.
Yeah,
chocolate, we're dying to know what's for dinner.
What does it say here? Help yourself to soup and potatoes if you want. That's That's working class solidarity right there. That's what's driving the housing movement, folks.
That's incredible. He kind of whipped it up very quickly, you know.
Yeah,
I was a bit disappointed he wasn't wearing a top knot because he seemed long haired, and I think in the kitchen, I always recommend a top knot. Andrew,
can I ask?
Yeah, please.
Can I ask one other question? So the Belvedere occupation is ongoing. The housing,
and it's going strong. So I was just in there tonight for a meeting.
And so sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I've just called in there this evening to say hello to a few of the heads, and give a report then as well. So I'm a member of the Socialist Party as well, and there's the Cork City branch had a meeting tonight on the events that took place. So from the occupation, I Skype called down to Cork and I give them an update on what was going on as well. So the atmosphere in there is brilliant at the minute. So
that's great.
And there's the deadline for people to leave that property was 6 o'clock tonight, right? Is that right?
As far as I know, there was talk then that the injunction is going to be enforced by Saturday at the latest. But that's kind of, some of that stuff is going over my head now today. I was just kind of focusing on media and stuff like that.
Sure.
But there's a solid team of people each focusing on various different aspects of keeping the occupation going. So it's a well-oiled machine.
Well, you need oiling. Please enjoy your dinner, Andrew Butler. Thank you so much, Andrew. You said you're from Maynooth, are you? Did you say originally?
Originally from Winnicon for my sins.
Where?
Winnicon, Cunta Winnicon.
Oh, okay.
County Monaghan.
Oh, County Monaghan. Okay, great.
Yeah.
But you went to college in Maynooth?
I'm going to college there. I'm just heading into final year now, politics and music technology. So.
Okay. Well, you have a lot to think about for your politics thesis anyway. You've got a good subject. Andrew, thanks so much for joining us. Enjoy your meal. It looked great. I mean, the guy whipped it up really quickly. Yeah. I saw it going on behind you as you were talking.
I'll make the most of it now. Olga, thanks very much as well.
No, thank you, Andrew. Thank you for coming on.
Stay in touch with us.
I will do. I'll keep you updated now. And we'll surely get back at them now. We'll be shutting down O'Connell Bridge next before we know it.
You could beat your own. That's
Andrew Butler, thank you so much, and bon appetit. Thank you.
Good luck.
Take care.
Oh yeah, I do want to object. That's great. Sorry, Olga. Will I? I'm just going to go and do the papers. Brackets. I badly need the bathroom.
Did something happen? Did something happen in Spain? We lost both Neil and Johnny.
We lost both.
It's 12:20. For Neil, it's 20. He just sent me a message. It's 12 there, so past his bedtime.
But it isn't. Oh, I thought he was on holiday. God,
Maybe he's going dancing.
Well, Johnny was certainly up. He was right there by the picket fence. So we'll hopefully get Johnny back up. But if we've lost Neil, very sorry. Neil is our producer, funnily enough. But there you go. Marcel, I think he's a little bit miffed at the Marcel's book club, which is proving more popular, I think, than Neil's in.
Well, I went to see Black 47 at the weekend.
Did you?
Mm-hmm.
We'll get a review from you later. Initially, how many stars did you give it?
I'd give it 10 out of 5.
No, it's a 5-star system, Vanessa.
Okay, well, 5 then.
Well, you get 5. Okay. And lawyer Kevin and journalist Kieran, Leo Vradker. I know Kieran and Kevin are both involved with Tomb Survivors. Kevin in particular is with the Tomb Survivors Network. Hello to Breda, by the way, who wrote a beautiful email. Hello, Breda, and and also to hello Peter. Huh? What's that, Kevin?
Sorry, I said you should have read on at some point.
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we have her on soon. But I understand Leo Varadkar made a private visit to the tomb site. Do you know who was present there, Kevin or Kieran?
Yeah, one of TD, Sean Kenny, you know that Fine Gael had that meeting at a hotel beside the sea in Salt Hill
Yes, the Galway
last
Bay.
week. Yeah, I think they spent 2 days there. So actually it's funny, well, our local TD, Hildegard, had lovely big signs around the town welcoming them all. I was thinking, there isn't an election on, how is she getting away with this? But yeah, they spent 2 days in Salt Hill, and he decided, actually, Breda sent me a piece about that, and it was, it was quite encouraging. I think Sean Kenny, the TD, persuaded him to go to the site, but he took a kind of a private, quiet visit to the Tune site, and was quite moved by it. So, as I was saying to Breda, that's quite encouraging. He said he had a feeling that he wants to go there, and if he's going to listen to what the survivors and the family members want, well, that would be fantastic, So it was a good news story. I said to Breda anyway. She's from the organisation, from the network, So it has to be encouraging that he wants to go and see the place for himself.
And was who accompanied him? Was Catherine Corliss there, or
no? I don't think so. Kevin might know, but it was pretty quiet. It was just he took a detour on his way back to Dublin from Salt Hill, which would be like 40-minute drive up the road. So
Kevin.
Yeah, I'm afraid I'm as usual. I take a contrarian view of this.
We've lost your
encouraged by anything.
Contrarian.
Kevin, you've become so contrarian.
Kevin the contrarian and Kevin the poet. How's that one?
Kevin, you've literally turned blue with consternation. But we've lost your visual.
Here he's back.
Am I still here?
You are.
Yeah.
You are.
Can you see me?
Yeah, we can see you.
You're cynical about.
Okay. I thought you said you lost visual. Anyway, the Mr. Varadkar, as we know, for good or ill, is head of government. Now, Tuam is not a shrine. Tuam is an unexcavated mass grave of children. If he was going to visit some historic place of death or remembrance, then you could make a private visit. There's no such thing as a private visit by the head of government to a mass grave. There's no such thing. You can't make a private visit. What you do is you can make a visit in private, or if you prefer, in secret. And that's what he did. He fitted it in on his way home from Galway. He rang Sean Kenny and said, "Can you show me where this place is?" And that's essentially what Sean Kenny's role was.
Right.
And quite frankly, well, I won't turn the air blue, but I have a view of Mr. Kenny, as well as Mr. Varadkar. But essentially, I think
Dr. Varadkar.
It's Dr. Varadkar, yeah. I think he did about 200 hours as an intern.
Okay.
I really think it showed utter disrespect to the families. He's had 2 years almost now. He's 2 years as Taoiseach. He went to the People of the Year Awards when Catherine Corliss picked up another gong.
Yeah.
And he was several feet away. He never even spoke to them, to the survivors, to Peter Mulrine, to Catherine Corliss, everyone else.
No.
It would appear that, to use a tad of Cockney rhyming slang, what we appear to have is a government of stunts.
Kevin, I'm shocked.
Yeah, well, I'm very shocked. We have a very strict language policy on this on the show, as Vanessa.
Yeah, no.
The
communist.
Leo has surprised on certain stories for like the Maurice McCabe thing. He comes in at critical times and does something that is quite unusual. Calling McCabe and Maurice McCabe and John Wilson distinguished at that time was absolutely. I think Olga would agree, was critical, wasn't it?
Mr. Left of Field.
Yeah. Well, he can throw an odd curveball. I mean, is there a feeling that there might be some movement on this? Maybe Kieran could address that. Do you think that? Do you think he's more hopeful than Kevin did?
No, well, I mean, is it just a PR stunt? Why did we even find out about it? I suppose from what Kevin is saying, like if it was just a private visit, why didn't you just go there and shut up and try and move things on quietly? You know what I mean? Why did I get a press release about the fact that he was there?
Did you?
No, I didn't. I got it from the survivors, but it was picked up from a paper.
Yeah,
that's how they found out. And exactly, I suppose, if people feel very hurt and let down by the government, well, him going there like that with a Fine Gael TD is not doing much to help their cause at all either, And I just I think they're so, I think we've gone through this, but they were given options for the site that they weren't happy with. There's only one thing that the family members and the survivors want, and that's full exhumation of the site and examination. Yeah. If this somehow brings that about in some way or brings it a bit closer, great, but if it's just a stupid PR exercise, what's the point? Why didn't you just head off on the motorway straight back to Dublin,
Yeah.
But it remains to be seen. But, he wanted to go and see the site. I don't know what you read into that.
Yeah.
He didn't make contact with Catherine and say, can I meet you down there? Anything like that,
No. Kevin, in relation to any movement in the last week or so?
There are a couple of things. I would dearly love to be able to give you blow by blow and significant movement, John, but we are in fact in a war of attrition, and that war is still being fought. One of the things which was published this year, in February of this year, was a value for money report on the Coroner Service, which proposes a radical reassessment of the Coroner Service. Now, there are a couple of things which most people probably aren't aware of. The Coroner Service is under the ministerial remit of the Department of Justice. But individual coroners, the fees which coroners receive, are actually paid by the local authorities. So in the case of the coroner for North Galway, who is of particular interest to myself, his fees are paid by Galway County Council. And in a way, it's almost like piecework. When a death is notified to the coroner, when it arises that a death is notified to the coroner, he gets a flat fee of €129. Now, when I read the report, the press release of the Commission of Investigation in March, 3rd of March 2017, the Commission noted that when the remains were found, a large number of human remains in 17 out of 20 chambers, that the coroner was notified. What I'm presently trying to find out is how many was he notified of? Because if he was notified of 796 for doing nothing, he would have picked up fees in excess of €101,000.
Yeah.
And that is something which I'm currently trying to track down.
Well, wouldn't that be interesting? I mean, they just cleaned up, didn't they? There wasn't an angle they didn't go for.
When I get it in black and white, John, you'll be one of the first I give it to.
Well, thank you.
What I can tell you is that the coroner for North Galway is at the very bottom end of the scale of coroners throughout the country who convene inquests.
Right.
He would be at the very, very lower end of the scale.
Okay. Well, sorry, Kevin and Kieran, thank you so much. We hope to have further reports, but will you stay with us for a second? Kevin, Johnny has rejoined us from Barcelona. Johnny, you're now inside. Are you in Barcelona? Hello, Johnny.
How are you keeping? Can you hear me?
Yeah, just about. It's got a kind of a continental buzz going on there as well.
Yeah. Actually went. I'm like.
You're what?
I'm like a cyborg. I have to charge up the whole time. So I was in the garden, lovely garden. This accommodation is amazing. It really is.
Are you in an Airbnb?
It is actually an Airbnb, yeah.
Okay.
Very cheap, lastminute.com, and I couldn't believe, because I left my phone in the taxi because I was out with juice, and I had the address, so I went into a bar to see could I get it or whatever, but no, the phone's gone. But so that's probably so. Don't worry about it. I'm enjoying the conversation as much as I could tune in, and fair play to Andrew. And I was actually looking at something there yesterday, and it might be of interest to the viewers and the lads as well. There was an anti-eviction video in Corofin 2016, which has all the hallmarks of the other night in Frederick Street. Same kind of heavy-handed, black and tan-esque kind of handiwork, and it's this isn't something that happened overnight. I think this is a tactic that the guards and security firms are using with the balaclavas for a while now. So it's just that it's kind of really hit the nerve of the people of Dublin, and I think it's really interesting that Harris is only in the job a week, and this is the thing he has to stand over, and he should be judged on it now, really.
Well, yeah, he's having a go. Johnny, I'm going to come back to you in a second there. Kevin, briefly, Kevin is in the UK Labour Party, and they tried to kick Kevin out, but you're still in the party, aren't you, Kevin?
As far as I know, I got a vote for the National Executive Committee, which just happened, so I think so, yes. So Kevin, I think my case is in a long list of those being dealt with. But if I was still suspended, I shouldn't have a vote.
Oh, good. Okay, so you're back.
There's been a change in the General Secretary since that happened, but I've had no formal notification.
Good. Okay. Well, I mean, it sounds encouraging. You're a Corbynista. He is under a huge amount of attack from primarily the Daily Telegraph and forces therein about anti-Semitism and his reluctance to deal with it in the party. That it's rife within the party. Kevin,
which I don't see it that way at all.
Yeah,
it's interesting. The Cynthia Nixon, who is running for governor of New York, and
the Sex and the City girl, yeah.
Yes, against as she's a member of Democratic Socialist America, which is kind of one of the groups that's grown out of the Bernie Sanders campaign. She's challenging Andrew Cuomo, and my understanding is that a number of emails have emerged, as they seem to do from Democrats, that they were planning a similar type of smear against her, which is basically anyone who does not support the continued occupation of Gaza and the West Bank. And I don't mean saying we need a peace process at some vague point in the future. I mean, really, anyone who doesn't support it is accused of anti-Semitism. I think another interesting thing is when Corbyn was first elected leader, the right complained that there weren't enough women on the front bench. That was the first thing. Yeah. And I think it's a way that identity politics has been used. If you didn't support Hillary Clinton, you were a male chauvinist, even if you were a woman. No one accused any Hillary supporters of being anti-Semitic because they didn't support Bernie Sanders, who is, apart from Nelson Rockefeller, I think the closest Jewish person who ever came to being president. So I think those smears are seem to be part of the one of the tools of the center, the crumbling center.
Yeah,
it's not, and you'll always find someone who says a stupid thing online. I've said the odd thing myself, indeed.
Yeah.
Kind of tag these things too. But mean, the most abused politician online in Britain. I think she got 40% of all the hostile and racist and male chauvinist comments is Diane Abbott.
Yeah.
You will not read any front page of the Daily Telegraph about that, and you will not hear Margaret Hodge breaking into bits of swearing.
No. In fact, well, Kevin, I'd love to. I mean, I could talk to you all night about Labour Party. I mean, I was there at the birth of New Labour in North London, and Toby Harris and people like Barbara Roach. It was a Jewish. Almost every person prominent in that time in New Labour emerging.
So were you living in Haringey then?
I was.
Yes?
Yeah, I was covering Haringey Council, and
I was in. I lived in Enfield.
Okay.
At that time, 88 to 94, just up the road.
That was just those years I was there as well, and you saw the emergence. So but Corbyn was to the left, to the extreme left of these guys then.
Oh yeah.
But
the hatreds go back a long way. Like Margaret Hodge was the leader of Islington Council.
That's right.
The night they set the poll tax, I was outside, and so was Jeremy, who was summoned for not paying his poll tax. So these are deep, deep things. Yeah. It's like a family.
Yeah, it is. Implacable hatred
in that sense.
Yeah. Well, as I say, we could talk all night, but everybody else would probably be bored, so I won't. I just want to quickly...
Can we talk about Cynthia Nixon more?
Yeah, we can, definitely. One second, though, because Marcel, much to Neil's chagrin, he cut off from Spain. He's drinking heavily margaritas. Because Marcel's book club is proving more popular than Neil's movie thing, and you know where he's good. But Marcel, you've got some books for us this week.
I don't think that these are two competing kind of areas of entertainment. So I'm really just an upstart, so I don't want to invade any slot that Neil.
Own it, Marcel. You got to take it.
John is just shit-stirring, Marcel. Don't mind him.
Okay.
No, I'm just saying. So I've got two books that are not about borders today. We border heavy last week. I don't know, John. Did we ever agree on a rule that we can only have non-fiction, or am I allowed to sneak in a bit of fiction as well?
It was actually non-fiction. Was a.
Then we stick to it. You see, I come prepared, so I've got two books of non-fiction.
Brilliant. Quite a strict rule, actually, Marcel. I'm surprised that you're even trying to bend them. Yeah.
You know me. I'm a German. I try to,
I know.
Sneaking things across the Irish curtains.
Trying to move the border of the
yes.
Trying to stretch it.
Bring down the wall. Okay. So the first book I have tonight is actually a bit of an older one. It is Hidden City.
Oh, Hidden City.
Yes.
Oh, brilliant.
Can you see that?
And that's by Carl Whitney.
It is indeed. And Carl Whitney is a journalist and researcher at UCD. And he wrote this book, which sounds a bit like your stereotypical kind of the dark secrets of Victorian Dublin, which it is not. It's a very contemporary look at literally the hidden Dublin. So there's a chapter in there where he goes into the sewers. There's a chapter in there about Poolback, about the whole history of the area, about the chimneys and so on. And my favorite part is when he goes to Tyrrellstown, which no one ever does except those who are living there. But then he records the whole history of the area. And I lived there for a year. It was actually the first year I was in Ireland. I lived in Tyrrellstown. And the whole estate, it has no straight roads and no straight lines. Everything is curved. So the whole thing was built as this weird kind of organic thing, and it was planned in the 80s already.
Wow.
So it's really interesting. So he does discover like the hidden Dublin, the contemporary hidden Dublin. It's very, it's written very interestingly.
And is it for the would a Dubliner know all these things, or would it be really?
No, absolutely not. Because he also goes in, then he visits the ASB plant in Poolback, for example, and talks about how water is processed for Dublin. Oh. So it really, I think it's even for a veteran Dubliner.
Brilliant.
It's very interesting.
Okay, that's your first nonfiction.
That's my first nonfiction book, Carl Whitney's Hidden City.
Hidden City by Carl Whitney. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And the second one I have for tonight is Follow the Old Road.
Follow the Old Road. Okay. Who's that by?
By Joe Carrigan, who is a writer living in Cork. And this is out on the O'Brien Press. I think it's her second book. And this one is a bit, so it basically what it does, it literally follows the old road as in the old ways of transport in Ireland. So it talks about canals, it talks about waterways, it talks about, obviously, about the railway and the way that these days loads of the old railways are being reestablished as greenways, as they're called. There's lots of pictures.
It's fabulous picture. The cover is fabulous.
No, it is really good, and it has, I think, the pictures are by her husband. So it comes with it's obviously, see, you can see that it obviously is aimed at a bit of a more touristy. Yeah. It's aimed a bit more at a tourist market, I think.
Sure.
It also comes with the really nice map.
Oh, very nice.
But I really like the whole concept of going back. So then she starts like with the waterways and how the first settlers arrived in Ireland, and then goes all the way to the Great Northern Railway, and the problems and benefits it had. So it's really interesting. Also, because I'm always looking out for new sites to hike. So so in that regard, she also offers quite interesting insights in those greenways and other ways to walk.
Brilliant. Marcel, that is fantastic. I don't know whether you noticed, Marcel, last week, I think Frank McNally in the Irish Times is walking the border.
Yeah, I saw that.
Doing a piece. I know you're completely obsessed with borders, so I'll cut it out for you anyway. I'm going to send it to you.
Excellent. Thanks very much.
Okay, Marcel, that's brilliant. Your two books then are The Hidden City by Carl Whitney and
Follow the Old Road by Joe Carrigan.
Follow the Old Road by Joe Carrigan, and it's photography by
her husband. John, you caught me up into
that. There was a name on the cover. I saw it. Photography by
Richard Mills. It's
Richard Mills. Okay, Marcel, that's brilliant, and I have to say, much better than the movies. I know you're not in competition, but before I just go to the papers with Olga, Kieran, you were at the Shannon Watch, which is a vigil at Shannon Airport. Takes place every Sunday, isn't it?
No, once a month. Kevin's poem actually kind of resonated with me in that respect. A couple of amazing guys are keeping this protest going every single month for the last 10 years. But there's actually been protests there for 17 years since, 9/11's anniversary was this week. But in the immediate aftermath of that, George Bush asked the Irish government for permission for the US troops to land in Shannon. And protests began almost at that time. But for 10 and a half years or so now, these guys have met every single month. So I know a few people who come down from Galway down to Shannon, a few from Limerick, some even come from Donegal and Dundalk. And I think it's an issue that's not highlighted at all enough in our media. There's a really, really amazing guy in him. He's an inspiration to kind of younger activists. That Ed Horgan, he was really high up in the. I don't know if you've met him or John, or you know.
No, I remember.
He's high up in the Irish Army, or he was. He's retired. He's a funny man because he lives in Limerick, but he's banned from flying from his local airport because he was getting a Ryanair flight to London a few years ago. And he just noticed that there were a couple of US military planes on the runway beside him, and he said, "Oh, I'm never going to get to London today," because he took it into his own hands to go over and inspect the planes. So we're talking, and he was taken away and never made it to London. So he's been told by an official letter that he's not allowed to fly from his local airport to Shannon. So I went down and joined them because I don't get down there enough, really. I've written about them a few times over the years.
You were there a year ago.
Yeah, I've been there a few times now, but I think the last time was a year ago. But while we were there this week, two big, huge Omni Air planes, which are contracted out to the US military, both landed within half an hour of each other. We've no idea what was on board them. They're huge. Like they could accommodate hundreds of troops, or they could have cargo. One was from a NATO base up in the north of Norway, and one was from Kuwait. So the one from Kuwait could be bringing troops home from wars in the Middle East. But Ed invited me around the corner, and he has this wonderful, really powerful lens. He said, "Come on, Kieran, hop in the car, we'll go around the corner." So I went down, and he took photos. They keep a record. It's amazing, treasure trove of information. They have a record of virtually every single plane, either U.S. military plane or a contracted out one to this Omni Air company that has landed there over the years. I've done stuff with them about things that ended up in Gaza. Kevin was talking about perhaps even white phosphorus. I know I wrote about a couple of years ago, you know. So, but I felt quite intimidated because while I was interviewing Ed around the corner from the main protest, which is on a roundabout, and it's all a bit of a circus because the guards go to one place, the protesters put up their flags in another, the people visiting the airport beat their horns, and it's the same rigmarole every month, but it's still very interesting. But you know, he said, "Oh, there's the special branch now. This is very normal." So there's 3 or 4 guys in an unmarked car watching us while I'm talking to him, and this is just normal down there. They're taking your reg, and I understand why, because some of these protesters have gone in through the fence, and one guy famously rang the airport and said, "Hi, it's Sunday afternoon. Have you not noticed I'm actually standing in the middle of your runway?" Nobody had actually noticed that they were there. So, but I don't think we talk about this enough. I mean, there's talk of a European super army coming ahead. Yeah. We don't even talk about this. I mean, the last figure I saw was years ago, and it was, I think, 2012 or 13, but 2.5 million US troops had flown through Shannon at that stage. I haven't seen that figure being updated for 3, 4, 5 years now. So I just think these guys, we're talking about activism. Ed is in his late 70s, and he encourages young lads to take mad risks and stuff.
Yeah, we got to get Ed on. I mean,
he's a real shining light for people who care passionately about things. And more, the fact that he's a very respected military man and involved in international peace organizations mean they can't just dismiss him as a dirty old hippie or whatever the way they like to tarnish activists. So John Lannon is another guy. He's an academic. So these guys are amazing, but they're doing Ireland a favor in a way because they are keeping a record of what's going on down there, and we don't want to face what's going on down there. No. There have been bombings of children in Syria that could perhaps be connected to Shannon Airport, and it's horrible to think.
Also the rendition flights and stuff. Must actually get Ed on, and Kieran's wrote a brilliant blog post about it. It's on Kieran.
Well done, Kieran.
Well, that's the point. I think it's not highlighted enough, and I feel a bit guilty. I go down and say, "Hi guys, I haven't seen you for a year. What you're doing down here is amazing, but why aren't more people talking about it? At least have a debate
we
about
used to talk about it, Kieran. It used to be talked about 10 years ago.
Yeah, but also it's a very interesting experience to spend an hour with them at that roundabout, because you get this feeling you're a criminal even if you're just standing around a roundabout. You know what I mean? But
it was one of the slots that Neil and myself said we would go down and do Vox Pop from there.
Yeah. I think Broadsheet did something down there with them last year, I think, or the year before.
We've done quite a bit with them. I think.
Well, Tom Clonan, who was the former Irish Times security analyst, he wrote about seeing weapons on one of the US planes that had landed in Shannon. He was the first Irish journalist who went to Guantanamo Bay, and his book Whistleblower Soldier Spy documents all that, and I think he gave evidence in Margareta Darcy's trial. I think.
Well, I've written for Electronic Intifada, which is a Palestinian website in the English language. I've never seen anyone who fact checks like they do, but the Irish Independent reported that Apache helicopters ended up in Israel going through Shannon, and and these things could be used then in bombing civilians in Gaza. So when you look at how Irish people feel about things like this, it brings up a lot of emotion. But then you go down to this, you're made to feel like a terrible, horrible criminal for standing.
But this is what I mean. So I suppose that's what I mean. Like, you're talking about Irish Times security analysts who saw weapons, who gave evidence. When you say casting people as just kind of a bunch of hippies, I mean.
Yeah, but I think that's the point I make at the end of my blog is we don't know what's happening on those planes because nobody ever checks them. But what the guys have documented is that, say, white phosphorus, which ended up being used in civilian part of Gaza, they were able to connect that to a US military base where there were flights through Shannon, which is very near the place where the white phosphorus comes from. Now, it is speculation, but the Shannon Watch guys don't mess around. They're very factual with the stuff that they don't speculate. They need exact, or they go by facts as much as they can. And the fact that they have respected military or academic backgrounds means maybe people should be listening to them a bit more than they are.
Quite possible. Sorry, Johnny, you wanted to get in there, did you?
Yeah, I'm kind of really interested in that. I didn't get down for the actual monthly thing, Kieran, but the biggest protest that was ever in Ireland, and I think probably the biggest in the UK as well, was on the 15th of February 2003, when everyone knew that it was weapons of mass distraction. And that was the biggest protest ever in Ireland. When you consider everything that went on up in Northern Ireland, this was the biggest protest. I think up to 100,000 people.
Yeah,
I think
100,000 in Dublin.
Over 1 million in Hyde Park.
Yeah.
And I just want to ask Kevin on the back of this, Kevin, the Labour man, would like Mary Harney call us anti-American thugs that day? And what was built that day was an amazing anti-war movement. And it's unfortunate, but I do follow Shannon Watch, and they're amazing guys in relation to the stats. And it's really serious for two reasons. We're a target now, like America or Britain, even though we're meant to be a sovereign neutral state according to our constitution. So I'd like to few the president and candidates to maybe talk about that in relation to how our neutrality is compromised. And the real serious one is that we're now part of the EU army. And I read that in the next 3 years, we're going to give up to 2.5 to 3 billion to the EU for this army. So in relation to arms, and we're probably going to be giving our leaving cert, our school leavers, to the EU army. And where are they going to be based? This is really serious stuff, lads.
Yeah,
but Kevin, I have to say there in relation to, just 1 second, John, please, thanks.
Oh, no, but you were asking Kevin something. I just wanted to get it.
Kevin was talking about Labour there and Jeremy Corbyn. And George Galloway, who I had over with his film The Killings of Tony Blair, gave it the Irish premiere in Kilkenny a few years ago. Like, he was one of the main guys behind the anti-war movement, wasn't he? And he's still in exile from the Labour Party on account of Tony Blair. Do you see Jeremy Corbyn welcoming him back anytime soon, or would you agree that he should be?
I think he would if he could, and he will when he can. That's the reality. Galloway was expelled for advocating the killing, basically saying it was legitimate to shoot British soldiers in Iraq, which would actually be a very widely held position, that it was an army of occupation and so on. So I think that I think he should. I think if Margaret Hodge can be in the Labour Party, I don't see any reason why George Galloway shouldn't be. And he does support Corbyn, like online. He's far more supportive of him than many people, MPs, who are in it. So I would agree with you.
Okay, Johnny.
A great show as well, doesn't he, on Friday Night Talk Radio? The mother of all talk shows, Galloway. He's quite interesting.
Johnny, will you have I hope you have a great time at the show tomorrow. Now, Stephen's show starts at what time in Barcelona?
Just got an email from Steve. He said he's going to sort me out with a phone. So I'm back now in the cyborg world. I thought I was going to be free from it all for a while.
Okay.
But don't have a gift horse in the mouth. Yeah, that's tomorrow night.
Okay.
So that's great, because myself and Vanessa seen the start of his tour, and this is the end of it now.
Yeah.
Well, tour, and hopefully it's set up for an Irish tour maybe. But yeah, looking forward to that.
You guys saw it in Kildare, and I was supposed to see it in Maastricht, but I made him. I blew it on Monday. Long story, but it didn't happen. I'll try and get to Barcelona tomorrow, but it's not looking good, Johnny. I'm afraid it's 11 hours on the train from The Hague to Barcelona. 11 hours, like.
Get the boat from Rotterdam. It was. I don't know.
Walk.
Yeah, there's reasons for everything, John.
Yeah, well,
there's
and everyday sexism behind you, by the way, just to point it out. Everyday Spanish sexism.
That's national. That's natural beauty. It's not as well. Maybe it depends on it. Beauty didn't die the beholder, but I really like Kieran's painting there. That's fairly catching.
Oh, that's from Cambodia, actually.
Yeah.
It looks like a Yes album cover. I was wondering if Johnny, thank you so much from Barcelona. Olga, I was just wondering if we could have a quick look at the papers. Although I don't know how to share. Do you know how to share them on the thing? Yeah. Okay, Johnny, I think that's your mic. Yeah, that's it. Okay. This is the Times Ireland edition. Women's Health Council may be revived after smear test scandal. The Women's Health Council was abolished. When was it abolished, Vanessa?
Sorry, John, I didn't realise my thingy was that the voice was off. Yeah, that's the Women's Health Council. So this is from the Scally report, because he mentioned how it was kind of disappeared when it was supposed to be kind of merged into the Department of Health in 2008 or 9, I think 2009. So he was talking about how it disappeared. So this story by Jennifer Bray is basically saying that the government is considering re-establishing it. So we were talking about that earlier. It was when Mary Harney was the Minister for Health, when that happened.
She got rid of it. I just want to sort of quickly go through it
quickly through them, yeah. So Fine Gael TDs attempt to scupper alcohol warnings. So there's some Fine Gael TDs are against Simon Harris's bill. This is the alcohol warning, the health warnings on alcohol bottles.
The vintners lobby is extremely powerful in Ireland.
Yeah. There on the right, Ireland set to be the best EU economy for the 4th year.
Okay, whatever.
2 boys there are the guys who are accused of the nerve agent attack in Salisbury. They're saying they were in Salisbury they're tourists and there to look at the cathedral. The Examiner, main story there, I haven't read this now, by Cormac O'Keefe. National Security Office urged in report National Security Coordinator would answer the Taoiseach. A new national security body charged with collecting and analysing intelligence from state agencies and coordinating their activities is to be a key recommendation of the forthcoming policing commission.
Be like an Irish M,
On the right there, sanctioned doctors over screening, says Patient Body by Elaine Loughlin and Juna McEnroe. Individual doctors must face sanctions over the shocking way they were treated. And then there's just obviously drug seizure. Sorry?
I bet they don't.
I bet they don't. Okay. There's a drug seizure there, British drug seizure, and then the new land agency. This is the one that we've heard about all day, that they're going to, build
50,000 houses in 20 years.
Yeah. And the Sun, we could have done better. Protest. This is following Drew Harris's statement earlier today, where he said that lessons should be. Well, he was going to ask Pat Leahy, the Assistant Commissioner, to give him a report as to what lessons could be learned, but also that if the guards were going to wear those hoods, that they should have worn helmets with them. So. Oh
right, yeah, because that was the problem.
That was the problem.
Yeah, because really they needed a helmet.
That made a big difference.
Yeah.
On that bombshell, that hooded bombshell, a very big thank you to Kieran Tierney, who's in Galway. Kieran, thank you very much for joining us. And Kieran, what's your blog? Kieran Tierney at Blogspot.
.ie or .com, whatever country you're in, because of blog. Kieran Tierney, Kieran with a C. Blogspot.ie.
Okay. Johnny Keenan in Barcelona. Good luck, Johnny. We'll talk to you next week. We'll have a proper chat then. Kevin Higgins, the evil poet. UK Labour Party member, we hope. Thank you very much for joining us, Kevin. Brilliant and lovely poetry. Kevin Higgins, the lawyer, the loquacious, eloquent lawyer from also Galway. Thank you very much, Kevin. And the Tomb Survivors Network, Marcel Kruger, Book Club. Brilliant. Speechless, in awe of compared to Neil's movie thing. Thank you very much, Marcel Kruger. Hope to see you next week, Marcel. Olga Craig, thanks a lot for joining us. Vanessa, foreign celebrity.
Good night.
Thank you very much. Is there anything anybody else wants to add?
Just to say sorry. I was just going to say the vote, the Magdalene Laundry site. So Gary Gannon's, it was upheld. Yeah. Sorry, you probably already talked about it. Sorry.
No problem. Johnny?
Yeah, a friend of mine, David Malhan, and I know you were talking about Palestine there earlier on, is having a fundraiser for MAPS, which is Medical Aid for Palestine, in the Cobblestone on the 22nd of September. So there's an array of talented acts. Obviously, Kevin Higgins isn't on the bill, but maybe next time. But that's the 22nd of September in the Cobblestones, and all money goes to all the artists once again, giving up their time. So Cobblestone, 22nd of September, Saturday, from around 9. Okay. We'll have it on the site soon, yeah.
Okay, we'll definitely put it up on the site.
Just give them a good bit of notice, as opposed to next week, maybe.
Okay, brilliant, and thank you so much. And we've had so many guests tonight. I can hardly even name them.
Thanks to Andrew Butler. Yeah.
Oh, and thank you very much to Andrew Butler, and hope he gets better. Hope his hand
gets better. Yeah.
Yeah, incredible. We didn't even use it was very gory pictures, weren't they all good today?
Very.
Thank you very much for joining us, and we hope to see you on the site tomorrow, or here next Thursday. Thanks so much.